This is my 2016 Mazda 3, and I think she needs some new tie rods. So this video, I'm going to be attempting to change the tie rods on my Mazda 3. I'm not a mechanic, and truth be told, this is way outside my comfort zone. So I'm going to be learning as I go. I'll share any triumphs or mistakes I make along the way. I did do a diagnosis video that you can check out if you would like, but typically how you check these things is you would jack your tire up and give your tires a shake from left to right and up and down. Now, in the up and down motion, things were pretty solid, but left and right, there was the movement. So that in and of itself was a good indication that it could be a tie rod issue, but that's not always the case. I also filmed the tie rod as I was shaking the tire, and it did look like there was a little bit of movement. I then disassembled the outer tie rod from the knuckle, and I was playing around with that ball joint, and it was very loose, and there was even a little bit of up and down movement. So I'm thinking, or I'm confident enough that I'm moving forward, but that might not be the only issue that exists. So this might be a foolish mistake to do all this work and then find out that the problem is not resolved, but hey, worst case scenario, I learned a few things and maybe even make a few friends with this video. Did do a reconnaissance mission a few weeks ago. There was a few things I needed to decide. A, what are the extents? Am I just gonna stick with the tie rod? So the issue lies with the right outer tie rod, or I believe that's the issue. But in addition, on the left side, when I was doing my inspection, I saw that the boot was torn. And to replace that, you have to disassemble the outer tie rod. So I had to make that decision. And then I also wanted to get under there and just kind of examine how accessible is everything. So let's jump into that reconnaissance mission. So I got the wheel off. I got a much better view now. I know that the other boot on the other side has a little rip or cut in it. So I just want to double check, make sure this one's looking fine and I won't have to replace that. There's a weird clamp back there. It's a one-time use. So I have a few options. I can get the proper clamp, but that would require a special tool. Now the normal tool is a pair of pliers, and I can't get to it. So there is a second option. It's a smaller compact tool, as you can see, but I need to verify that will fit. So I've made a little template. It's not the exact dimensions, but I'm hoping it will be close enough, and I just want to see, am I going to be able to get it on there? And then in addition to getting on there, can I get a wrench on the end to tighten it? It looks like I can. The other options is just getting one of those normal hose clamps that you can kind of screw tighten, or even a zip tie. So I need to make that decision before I start placing orders for anything. And then just looking at everything else, it's a good time to check, see if you have the right tools. I have to loosen up this lock nut, and on the other side to replace the bolt, I actually have to remove it completely. So now I'm checking, do I have the right wrench? This is my largest one. This is 19 mils, so that will not work. The option that I think I'm gonna go, rather than buying a new wrench, is using an adjustable wrench. This isn't a great quality, it's just a Mastercraft. So I do run the risk of rounding it, because this thing has been on here forever, or at least 10 years kind of thing. It's really seized on there, so I don't want to round it. So I'll need to make a decision if I want to buy a new wrench or not. So these are all the things that are kind of going through my mind. One other thing that's bugging me is, because I do have to get in alignment, the question is, should I replace my inner tie rods? I'm there, I'm gonna get in alignment anyways. Is it worth it? I mean, I think I can do it. Yeah, I need to think about this. But I wanna check on these inner tie rods a little closer. All right, so I got it disconnected from the hub or knuckle. There is a torque, let's call it a torque spec, where you take off the outer tie rod and you put like a weight scale on the end and pull it. And it should be within a certain tolerance. Because the outer tie rod is on and just a solid piece of metal, it weighs a lot. It's hard to kind of tell, but I am feeling there's still some resistance. I think if I don't change them, I'll be fine for a little bit. And in that time, fucking sell this thing, get something else. Nah, just kidding. I love you, baby. I love you, baby. Something else I wanted to check was the, I guess, diameter of whatever clamp I need. So what I did is I reached under, grabbed a piece of string, got the circumference. I can't really show you with the camera in my hand, but it's around 8 inches. You can do some math, pi r squared thingy to get the diameter. I can order a proper clamp from Mazda, but they charge an arm and a leg, I tell you, bud. Depending on what type of clamp I buy, I just want to make sure it's the right size. So I'm going to do some math and just double check. In my tie rod inspection video, I was having trouble because when you put this nut on, the whole stud thing just rotates. So I used a pry bar. What you can do is jack your car up a bit, get a piece of wood or even grab the jack stand and then lower it on, and that'll put some pressure. So this should tighten on now. We're around the other side. This side I have to replace the boot. I put a little duct tape on there. I'm gonna, I think it's already coming off actually. There is, I think it's called silicone tape that's designed to wrap around boots. I could do that, but you don't want crud getting in there because it will mess up the ball joint for the inner tie rod. But anyways, I'm checking the resistance here and it's pretty good. So I don't know if I need to replace, or I don't know if I should replace my inner tie rods. We'll see. I'll let you know. So what did I decide? We're doing all the rods, baby. So after some serious thought, I decided I will do both inner and outer tie rods on the left and right side. Now, if my boot on the opposite side was in good condition, truth be told, I probably would have just stuck with the outer tie rod. But because I have to disassemble the left side to get the boot off and then back on, I figure, you know what, I'm there, might as well just replace it all and be done with it. And hey, maybe it'll be a fun experience, but more likely than not, a very frustrated one. We shall see. The inner and outer tie rod set, left and right side. And the boot, this costs $65 from Mazda, which funny enough is basically the same price as the inner and outer tie rod, depending on what you buy. It also came with the official Mazda clamp. So I figured if it gave me a clamp, maybe I should use it. So I purchased the special clamp tool, which we'll get into, and some other clamps for the side that I am reusing the boot. We also have some anti-seize, and then we have some grease. This is lithium grease. You want to make sure that the grease you use is rubber friendly, because after spending $65 on a stupid boot, you want it to last. Penetrating oil, and a little trick I learned on the internet, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is using a blowtorch and some crayon or just some wax. And then lastly, a writing utensil. So when this is still in the vehicle, before you disassemble it, you'll want to make some marks, alignment marks we'll call them, just so you can reassemble things, get in the approximate length, and put things back together roughly the same length and orientation. That will help on your journey to the alignment shop. This is just a soapstone. I don't know how well it's gonna actually work, but if not, you can use like a paint marker or maybe a crayon, or I don't know, figure something out. You got this. Now let's talk about some tools. These are the tools I think I'm going to need. And truth be told, I'm feeling a little bit nervous about this one. Now, in theory, a car is just a bunch of parts that's put together in a specific order. But in reality, you're facing some serious space constraints, and then you run into unique specialty tools. We'll see how it goes. So let's talk about it. So you're gonna need a fairly hefty hammer. This is a 4-pound. Some metric sockets, associated wrench. You're gonna want something that gives you a little extra leverage. This is just a fun little wrench extender tool. We have a torque wrench, and then some metric wrenches. Now previously I forgot that I had larger wrenches, so this may negate the need for an adjustable wrench, but we will see. We also need some extension bars. I have no idea how many or how long, but hopefully what I have will work. We have a wire brush just to clean off some of the rust and whatnot. I may need some vice grips, just in case I need to get a good grip on something and or some channel locks. Now, diving into the more specialty tools, this is my inner tire rod removal tool, which is kind of cool. I was excited to buy it, but I'm a little bit nervous. I hope it works. An alternative tool is this fleshlight looking thingy, but it's quite expensive. And then, as I mentioned before, I got the clamp kind of fastener tool. And that's about it. So as I mentioned, the boot came with an official Mazda clamp. And then I bought these additional clamps from Amazon. So there is a bit of prep work. I wanted to make sure that these clamps would be around the same size. And then once I got the diameter, I cut off the excess material. And then I shaved the sharp edges down with a file. And then in addition, I just threw a little duct tape on the sharp edge, just for a little extra assurance. You don't want sharp edge puncturing your new boot. And then another thing I did, I just wanted to kind of experiment, see how this tool works. So I just put a clamp on roughly the same diameter around this pop can thingy, and then tighten it on. So it does seem to work. So I'm quite happy with that, but yeah, just a little prep work in advance. Whoops, I always seem to forget. You'll obviously need jack and jack stands and the tools to remove the tire and put it back on. So we've got the car jacked up, the tires are chalked. First thing you're gonna wanna do is loosen this lock nut. Now it's better to do it now while things are still attached and rigid. It'll be a lot easier than when this thing's flopping around and spinning on you. You're also gonna wanna clean up these threads with a wire brush and get some penetrating oil in there. From there, once that's clean, or mostly clean, you're gonna wanna put some alignment marks. I actually ended up getting a paint pen, oil-based, so I'm hoping that will work. I already broke these lock nuts free a few weeks ago, just because I didn't wanna have to, struggle with it today. Now the right side, which is the problem side, that came off with a little homegrown Canadian muscle and some penetrant oil. But the left side just would not budge. So I mentioned this in an earlier part of the video. A little trick I learned was I just grabbed a propane torch and heated up the lock nut. It wasn't red hot or anything crazy like that. It was just nice and hot. And then I melted the crayon and it just got sucked into the threads. I was honestly surprised of how well that works. So just a little tip in mind if you get stuck with a rusty nut or bolt. I keep saying loosening the lock nut, but keep in mind you need to turn this clockwise, so you're tightening it further onto the threads. If you do lefty-loosey, you're just gonna jam this lock nut on tighter and tighter. So we got a 19 mil on the tie rod itself. I'm not sure if you need to do this because I think it should stop spinning because it's still attached. And then we have a 21 mil for the lock nut. Gonna grab my wrench extender. Now that that's loose, let's undo this little pin, and then we can zip this out. I believe it's a 17 mil. Okay, now that that's loose, I don't want to take the nut off completely. We're going to be bashing the knuckle here, not too hard because we don't want to damage. I may choose to actually hit it from the top. Normally you wouldn't do this, but because I'm replacing the tie rod end, it doesn't really matter if I damage it. There are specialty tools you can use that avoid damage to the outer tie rod and the knuckle, as you can see here. All right, now that that's off, this should just spin right off. So I'm gonna, in addition to the alignment marks, I'm gonna count the threads.
1, 2, 3.
26. Okay, because we gotta remove the boot, we have to remove this lock nut, so we'll just zip that out with the 21 mil. Okay. So that's moving, so that's why I got the vice grips and channel locks. Fuck them vice grips, fuck them channel locks. We got a 13 mil wrench. Let's see if that does the trick. I'm gonna brush these down and get some penetrating oil on there. So that thing just will not budge. So it's these kind of things that just eat up so much time that you never expect getting this nut off. So I'm gonna use the heat and crayon trick. That's rounding. I might be getting myself into a big mess here. So honestly, I have no idea what the fucking issue is. The outer tie rod threaded off nicely. So I'm just gonna play around with the boot for now. I don't know, we'll figure this out. I might have to cut it off. So I removed the one clip and I want to loosen this up. I grabbed the flathead screwdriver. I dipped it in some grease. I'm just gonna kind of work it in underneath. So for that one-time use back clamp, I'm just gonna use a screwdriver and a little mallet and just try and break that free. You just want to be careful that you don't damage your boot because I am reusing that one. Holy smoky. I hope I didn't just damage that boot. Man, cars suck. Clamp's off, I'll get that off later. Or loose, I should say. All right, at least everything looks half decent in there. No leaking or anything like that. All right, the plan of action is see if I can take this inner tie rod off without taking off the nut and without taking off the boot. We'll see. Now I understand that I have to take that lock nut off to get this boot off because I am reusing it. But I'm thinking I might be able to cut it in half a lot easier in my workbench on my bike. Also, this inner tie rod is sticking out quite a bit. I'm gonna see if I can put a pair of channel locks on here and loosen it up. I don't think that's gonna work. I lied. I was able to get a better angle down here and I actually got it loose. It's just screws out. That's true. Oh yeah, success. You also want to clean the rack or whatever this fun thing's called. There's a bunch of crud on there, which is probably not good. And as I mentioned before, just do a little inspection, make sure there's nothing kind of leaking out. If there is, that's probably some sort of seal. Because I don't understand how the rack and pinion works. But I imagine if you have steering fluid, there's fluid in there that can leak out. Okay, so that was so fucking brutal. The other side, honestly, if I have the same problem, I'll probably just cut the boot off. Don't even worry about taking out the outer tie rod and disassembling that hole. But let's see, it's in my metal vise. Nice and tight. Let's see if that works. Not a fucking chance. All right, plan B. So that's just stripping more and more. Plan C. Yeah, look at that stripping. So I did literally just buy this angle grinder. I haven't bought any blades yet because I've just opened it, but it came with a grinding blade. If I had a cut-off wheel, I'd probably just cut this fucking nut right off. But I want to see if I can make a groove in here that I can slide a wrench on there that won't kind of round off. I've also put a sock over the boot because I do not want to damage it. And careful doing this inside. Don't start a fire. So around this time, I realized how good of an idea it was to decide to replace the inner and outer tie rods because this inner tie rod would not have been reusable. So master mechanic over here, not even close. I shaved this down so that 11 mil wrench can go on. Come on, baby. Man, what the fuck? What the fuck? Jesus. I'm gonna cut it off. The reason why I didn't want to do this before was I wanted to, compare the new one to the old one so I can get the length right, but this is just not worth the hassle. Oh, finally, let's get this boot off. Man, fuck you, fuck you, man. All right, so I will clean that, but later. Okay, let's take a look at some stuff. Okay, let's do some comparisons, see if these things are the same length or the same shape. Let's start off with the outer tie rod. So the inner tie rods, they're universal. They can work on the left or right side. The outer, there's a right and a left. So just make sure if you're buying two, mark them. So I've put a little R there. Okay, so how we looking, brother? We the same length roughly? Yeah, just about good enough. So that's good for that. Now, I did count my threads, but that might be useless because I have no idea if this is the same length or not. Let's see if we can line that up. I mean, sure, close enough. So when I reassemble this, the new one on here, I'm gonna count 26 threads. My marks are long gone. So all I got is counting the threads. I don't even know if it's the same thread spacing. I mean, it should be. Oh, these I don't know. I honestly don't know what happened. The outer tie rod came off of the car and everything was fine. It slid off, nothing was spinning. And then looking closer, threads are all rounded. So I couldn't even put it back on without the whole assembly spinning. Like if I had more leverage and whatnot, I could probably yank it on there, but just because this just keeps spinning in the joint. Anyways, what am I doing? What's next? So we're gonna reassemble. Okay, so I threaded this on 26. Again, I have no idea. I think it should be pretty close. It should be close enough to drive to alignment shop. Shouldn't be a big deal. So spin it on 26 turns, approximately. Now I'm just gonna make some alignment marks. And hopefully these don't get rubbed off, but it should go on much easier. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, that's fine. Let's let that dry, disassemble, and I guess get back outside. All right, so that rigmarole took way too fucking long, but let's get this inner tie rod back in, or the new one in. Okay, that's nice and snug. To take the old ones off, I use the channel locks. I think I'm gonna opt to use this tool. I don't really want to strip or damage my brand new tie rod, so let's get that on. One thing to note on the inner tie rod, I did see some videos where there was like a special washer. The old one didn't have one, the new one didn't have one, so I assume 2016 Mazda 3s don't have that washer, but something to keep an eye out for. So I did get the tool on, but I realized I wanted to actually put a little Loctite on these threads. The manual doesn't state that you need to, but because this is covered by the boot, and the torque is a little wobbly, we'll talk about the torque in a second. I just want a little extra assurance, just a smidgen, just a little touch. There we go. As I mentioned, there is a special torque calculation to get this thing on. So let's cut to that. To calculate the torque requires a little bit of math. So the equation is torque range, which is 51 to 72. So let's pick a number kind of in the middle there, a safe number, 60, multiplied by the length of the tool, divided by the total length, including offset. So it's important that although I doubt I'll be able to get a perfect torque, we have a fairly wide range, but it's important that you do not over torque the inner tie rod because you can damage the steering rack. And obviously you don't want to under torque because if that thing comes loose, you won't know it with the boot being in there until some sort of catastrophic failure. So for the length of the tool, from the center of the chuck to kind of midway of the handle, let's say where most of the pressure is going to be put, let's call that 15. The total offset to the center of the tie rod is around 1.75 inches. So length of the tool is 15. Then the total length, including offset, is 16.75, 0.75. So you'll need to divide those. That is 0.8955. So let's round that up to 0.9. So if we take our torque, 60 multiplied 0.9, it's 54. But because we had a fairly wide range, 51 to 72, this is all foot-pounds, by the way, we have some range. So if I aim for around 54 foot-pounds, we should be fine. Now, keeping in mind, you are going to need an extension bar, but that really shouldn't affect the calculation too much unless you have one of those wobble bars, because the offset the total length will still be the same. All right, so 54 foot-pounds. There we go. That was easy. And then this is a 250 mil extension. I think that's, what is that, 10 inches? Yeah, 10 inches. Okay, so this ball joint's already greased up, but I'm gonna put a little bit extra grease in there just to be safe. Hopefully it can't hurt. And then you're gonna wanna put a little bit of grease on where the boot's gonna sit on the outer side. And then just give it a little wiggle, wiggle, jiggle, jiggle. You can see how much stiffer this is than the old one. Okay, let's get the boot back on. I've put the clamp on before just to make life a little bit easier. Make sure, do not forget to put the clamp on before you put the outer tie rod back on, or you'll be taking it all apart. I gotta take off this stupid lock nut, which is why I put the alignment mark, so it's all good. So I got the tool on, if you can see that, and I grabbed a little 1/4 inch ratchet and 13 mil socket. That might be good enough. If not, I'll tighten a little bit more. You also don't want to forget to put the smaller clamp on. Let's play around with that a little bit more. Just make sure it's on the right spot. I don't want that slipping off when you're turning your wheels, because this expands and contracts as you turn left and right. Okay, so I put the lock nut on and the outer tie rod. I counted 26. Funny enough, the marks are on the bottom. That's how she goes sometimes. I should be able to rotate the whole assembly and get it up in there, at least in theory. We'll see. So let's tighten that lock nut as much as we can. I would have preferred to tighten it while the outer tie rod's in the knuckle, just to give me some rigidity, but here we are. So the torque is 51 to 72 foot-pounds, but you can't get a socket on here in a typical torque wrench, so you'd have to get a crow's foot wrench and then calculate the offset. So I'm just going to give it a nice good tighten. So for this tie rod, this lock nut's actually a 22, and the wrench that fits on the tie rod is 19 mil, so 22 and 19. All right, let's see. Is my alignment marks aligned? Good enough. Okay, and then I turn that. So the new nut did not come with a pin. It's just a lock nut, I guess, with the little plastic flange thingy. We're gonna get that on and then torque that down to, what is it, 43, I think? Yeah, 43 foot-pounds. That's not a 17 mil. It's an 18. Okay, with that now on, let's give this a nice fucking... All right, I think the alignment shop has to loosen this and adjust things anyways, so I'll let them torque it. But I think that should be good, even if, you know, I was gonna leave it. Ah, shit. Okay, so because I had so much trouble taking that stupid nut off, I figured, and this is also recommended on the internet, you should put some anti-seize on the threads. So I just disassembled everything. It's not a big deal because it's new. I didn't have the same issues I had with taking off the old. But yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not owning this car when I need to replace these tie rods again, but it's the right thing to do. Honestly, I was gonna leave it, but as I said, it's the right thing to do. Okay, this is the moment of truth. Did I fix the problem? Yeah, baby! Solid. Fucking solid. All right. So, good. I'm happy. I made the right decision. So that's how you change your right side inner and outer tie rod. That kind of fucking sucked, to be honest. I do not recommend. But hopefully you have better luck than I do with those stupid threads on the inner tie rod. But I gotta do the left side. I don't know how much I'll film. You'll see. Okay, I wanted to show you what my original plan was if I didn't have to cut the other tie rod in half, because, you know, I have a new boot. I just cut the boot off. So what I wanted to do is just compare the parts. 21.9 centimeters ball joint is. But I mean, we're pretty close. That's like 22, but this could just be slightly on angle. Yeah. So that's like 22.7 or 21.7. Okay, so I would say these are fairly identical. So that's good news. So the thread counting will work. So let's, I counted 26 coming out, same as the other side. So let's get this on 26. So they're both assembled now. And I'm, you know, just checking, are they generally the same length? There's going to be some variability in the ball joints. This might not be 90 degrees, neither is this, and these can be slightly tilted. So, you know, again, it's just getting a general idea, but this looks pretty good. So I'll put on my alignment marks and get this disassembled and back in the car. Lock nut. I keep forgetting. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so I took it for a test drive. The clunking that I was experiencing is gone. So I resolved the issue. Honestly, if it wasn't for that fucking lock nut and saving the boot, that would have been pretty straightforward. Like the right side, because I cut the boot off, it was not that hard. Let's talk about some of the costs. And yes, I know I have shit on my face, but it makes me feel like Rambo, so I'm gonna leave it. So let's talk about the costs. The outer tie rods were $74 each. Now that's kind of expensive. There's definitely cheaper options, but that's all they had in stock. Inner tie rods were $34 each. The boot I mentioned, I think that was around $60, a little bit more with tax. The clamp tool and extra clamps was $30. The tie rod tool was $17. Those paint markers were like, I think $9 for a 2-pack. So we're talking about around $330. Not cheap, definitely not cheap. So I'm glad that did resolve my issue. I've booked my alignment, as I mentioned. So I'm gonna try not to drive, so might as well start day drinking. So thank you for watching, and join me for my next one, which may be investigating a strong gasoline smell in my oil. If you wanna see the backstory to that, look at my oil changing video. I don't know if that's something I can troubleshoot or solve. I might need a little computer thing, which I don't have. But we will see. Winter is coming, so hopefully this is the last thing I need to fucking fix on this vehicle before the winter comes. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day.